Good evening. It is Monday, June 8th, 2020. It is 7 p.m. and I call to order the first meeting for the month of June for the Speedway Town Council to order. I'm President of the Council, David Lindsay. I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. Joining me at tonight's meeting, to my far right, Councilor Gary Rakes.
Good evening.
To my immediate right, Councilor Dan Jensen.
Good evening.
To my immediate left, Vice President of the Council, Vince Noblet.
Good evening.
To his left, Councilor Eileen Fisher.
Good evening.
And the new face, to her left, is our Town Manager, Carlos May.
Good evening. Thank you.
To his left, Clerk Treasurer, Jacob Blaisdell.
Good evening.
And our Town Attorney, Bob Clutter.
Howdy do.
Howdy do, Bob. Our agenda has been posted, which we will follow this evening. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would please stand. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2 on our agenda is approval of the minutes from our May 11th and our June 1st meetings. Those have been distributed. Any corrections to those? Hearing none, those will be accepted as presented. Item 3 on our agenda is approval of a right-of-way agreement with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Lot B, and our Town Attorney, Bob Clutter, will describe that for us this evening.
Yes, this is an encroachment license, a pretty standard encroachment license agreement that allows IMS, Georgetown Realty, to locate some structures within the right-of-way, specifically some bollards and then a black fence. And this right-of-way agreement, or also an encroachment agreement, provides that if at any point in time in the future the town requires IMS, Georgetown Realty, to relocate those structures, if there's road improvement project or whatever the case may be, they will do so at their cost. But outside of that, it allows the adjacent property owner, in this case the Motor Speedway, to locate some structures within the town-owned right-of-way, and those are for pedestrian safety, of course. So.
I think when I described it, I said Lot B. This is also Lot B and Gate 1.
And Gate 1. Yes, the bollards on Gate 1 and the fence along Lot B.
Okay.
So, and Mr. Bowles is
And
here
the
if you'd like to say
president of
anything.
the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Doug Bowles, is with us. Mr. Bowles, would you like to come and address us?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. President, council members. Congratulations. Jacob, congratulations.
Thanks for the time. Appreciate the overview of Parcel B. For those of you that don't know it exactly in your head, it is the parking lot on the north side, or the north and west side of the roundabout there that was gravel. So we've paved that, and we'll have a 42-inch black fence that is what will be right inside of the right-of-way, so to help that look a little bit better. Also will help us direct traffic in a way that they can come across the road in one location. It helps us from a traffic standpoint in the roundabout. Those bollards that we talked about at Gate 1 have been in there since 2016, so this cleans that up as well to make sure that that we have an agreement with respect to everything that's in the right-of-way. So we appreciate that. Also want to say thank you to all of you for your patience with us, and John Merritt and his team for his patience with us as we try and go at Roger Penske speed. I was telling the chief earlier today that Roger Penske, his speed is pole speed all the time, and so as we all are trying to keep up with him, we appreciate you guys trying to keep up with us as we're trying to filter information through. We know we've been a bit of a challenge on occasion, but it's been a great relationship, and appreciate the opportunity to address you this evening.
Mr. President, I would move that we approve the right-of-way agreement as presented.
So motion and a second to approve the right-of-way agreement with the Motor Speedway. Any questions from the audience? Questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the right-of-way agreement signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Anything else?
No, just thanks again. I know you all have seen the announcement related to our July 4th weekend. Like all of you, disappointed that we don't get to host the World in Indianapolis, and particularly in the town of Speedway for that weekend, especially July 4th weekend. We're going to do the best we can to put on a good show. The races both on Saturday will be on NBC. The races on Sunday will be on NBC as well, so at least people will be paying attention to 16th and Main Street, so we'll hopefully get a little bit of coverage there. But our focus really right now is 100% on making sure we have an Indianapolis 500 like we all expect an Indianapolis 500. We've worked alongside the mayor. We'll continue to work alongside with you all. We continue to work alongside the governor, and we feel very confident that we'll get an Indianapolis 500 like we expect to have here in the town of Speedway, and get to welcome our friends that come every year, unfortunately just a few months behind when they normally come. With respect to Parcel B, that'll be getting striped pretty soon. So we'll have that striped with about 303 spots, all the ADA spots in there as well, so that gets done. We got a little work going on Georgetown Road still, working with the town to figure out exactly how that's going to work. But as we've been putting the fence and road, or the wall up through Georgetown, Roger really wanted to pave everything that was south of 7th Street for us, or essentially where that wall is, just to make sure that he felt with all the traffic that had been going up and down, it wanted to pave that so it's better for all of us along Georgetown Road, and our projects internally continue to go well. 166 restrooms have been touched, so I think Roger's a little disappointed that we don't get to share those with our fans, all the video board improvements and a lot of things. It's going to be a lot, I think, that all of us can be proud of as a town, and still excited that Roger's in here and investing alongside of us, and he's in the town of Speedway at least 2 days a week, and oftentimes 3. He actually comes back in tomorrow and pretty much every Saturday, and I've had fun walking with him as he interacts with town residents who are biking or running up Georgetown Road, stopping and talking to Roger along the fence line. It's been pretty fun to see him interact. It's been great for him just to see the enthusiasm that the neighbors have for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and for the town of Speedway. So we've really, really enjoyed that, and I think it's meant an awful lot to Roger, just the encouragement that people have given him as we've all been struggling to go through this time. The other thing, I think you all know that we have that little path that's put in now just south of where the creek goes underneath Georgetown Road to help people at least stay off of the road so they can get over to the bridge and back onto the path. And it's been fun to watch kids on bikes and folks walking that way, so pretty pleased with the way that's all going.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, great.
Have you heard from other venues where there's still crowds or people coming during races? And are you expecting that for July 4th?
Well, we're not going to have fans for July 4th, right? So the 500, when the 500 happened, or didn't happen on May 24th, you guys probably know Main Street was pretty busy. Awful lot of people around the roundabouts, just what they did on that day. I anticipate that for July 4th weekend, we'll probably see an awful lot of people on Main Street and around the roundabout just because they want to be in and around the town where they are when we have races. The venues right now, we haven't really talked to any racing venues that are any size that have had fans yet. NASCAR hasn't allowed any in any of their events. Formula One still hasn't. Some of the smaller dirt tracks are starting to host folks, but you're in the 1,000 to 2,000 range versus the tens or dozens of thousands. So right now, we haven't really seen anything like that. NASCAR may, over the course of the next few weeks, start to phase in some fans, but I would guess that it's in that low thousands number. I don't know when they're going to get to a point where they're going to host tens of thousands of fans. In fact, in a lot of ways, the Indianapolis 500 may be the first major event in the country at some level with a significant number of people. So we just continue to plan for that. We worked really hard around Brickyard Weekend to make sure that we were prepared to host fans. So if you've been by Gate 1 over the last couple of weeks, you've seen the bike rack and a lot of the things we were doing outside, worrying about social distancing. Internally, we did the same thing with concession stands, with restrooms, even our seating. We were marking seating with every other seat, and then an empty row, and then every other seat, an empty row. We went through a whole bunch of different scenarios to try and understand how we could host a smaller crowd for the Brickyard, but just the difference in the phases of the state and where the city is, and wanting to be good partners and wanting to make sure that we make everybody healthy so that we can have a 500 the way we want. We just decided the best thing for us to do was to focus on the 500, get the Brickyard Weekend behind us without fans, and then focus on the 500. But we continue to wait for that first big event so we can see how fans are working. I saw golf is going to have 8,000 people in an event coming up, so that's really kind of slowly working our way up there.
I just want to say thank you. The Holman George family was terrific for, 74, almost 75 years, and they're a great owner, and to see Roger with the enthusiasm he has as a new owner, the investment he's making, it just, jumps on the back of that and goes even further. His Penske Ready, Penske Speed, pull speed, and all those things are absolutely true, and we just thank you for the improvements you're making, because it's looking great when we're walking on Georgetown or near Gate 1 or wherever it might be.
Well, it's a two-way street. I mean, and Roger's figured it out too. I've always said, having been around here, that the Speedway doesn't work without the town, and the town didn't work without Speedway, and Roger sees that as well now, and especially, that's why it's so much fun on Saturdays to have him interact with the residents and just talking through. And it's usually really positive, and oftentimes it's a question about why you're doing this, and just to see Roger engage and hear from the neighbors is really a pretty powerful moment.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I misspoke on the vote. Jacob, for the minutes, if you could make that vote as 4 to 0 to 1. I abstained on that vote, please. On the last one. Thank you. Item 4 on our agenda is Resolution 2020-04, a resolution accepting the transfer of property from the Redevelopment Commission and dedicating a right-of-way. Tim Gropp, our Economic Director.
Me?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well,
That's okay.
sorry, Tim, I'm trying to give you some time, but
He'll get plenty later.
yes, I understand. Bob Clutter, our Town Attorney.
Thank you. This is a resolution accepting the transfer of property from the Redevelopment Commission and dedicating right-of-way. So the Redevelopment Commission currently owns a strip of land about 34 feet wide and 320 feet long approximately, running east from Main Street. And this currently is the access point to some of the surrounding property owners back there. A building was recently purchased and is opening for business, and they, rather than having just access by easement, they requested the assistance of the town in dedicating that as right-of-way. So the Redevelopment Commission has executed a deed for the property. It is attached to the resolution. The deed was executed by the President, Brody Duncan, of the Redevelopment Commission, and they have authorized the transfer of that sliver of land to the town. And then the the resolution states that you are accepting the transfer of the property described in the attached exhibit from the Redevelopment Commission, and you're authorizing the recordation of the deed and all necessary documents to effectuate the legal transfer of the property to the town. And secondly, that you are dedicating that property as right-of-way for use by the public, and authorizes all necessary acts of the town and its departments, particularly the street department, in conformity therewith. So then at this point, from this point forward, once the deed is recorded, this will be public right-of-way and will be a public street for the town. And again, that is Resolution 2020-04.
Thank you.
Can I make a motion that we approve the Resolution 2020-04?
Second.
It's been a motion, a second, to approve Resolution 2020-04. Any questions from our audience? Questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving Resolution 2020-04 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That will carry 5 to 0. Item 5 on our agenda is approval of a notice of award with Baumgartner and Company Asphalt. This is for our 2020 road and sidewalk improvement projects. I think I got this right. Jacob, I believe you.
Yes, we're going to give Bob a break here for a second.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. So yeah, last Thursday, we opened up bids for the 2020 road and sidewalk projects at 10:01 a.m. publicly. The lowest and responsive bid was determined to be Baumgartner and Company. They came in at $879,153, which was a welcome bid. We had budgeted or planned for $1,032,000, so about $150,000 less than what we had anticipated, which is great. So the work we're going to be doing, I think Cable has a few slides that we can show of maps of where the work's going to be occurring. So we'll be doing some work on Elaine Street, which is the west side. We did the other half last year. We'll be doing some work on, it's not up there, but Nash Lane, Schoolwood Drive, Fruitdale Avenue, and all those that I just mentioned, we'll be doing the mill and repave of the road as well as the sidewalk work. And then we're also going to be milling and repaving Worth Drive, which is just a little bit west here of the town hall building that goes from 16th Street and then dead ends down into the B&O Trail, that trailhead there by the baseball diamond and the left image up there. So we'll be doing all that work this summer. I'll remind that half of the funding for this is coming from the Community Crossings grant. It's a competitive grant that we've been fortunate to win from the state again this year. And so with your support, we will go ahead and get things going with Baumgartner. And as soon as we have kind of the approval here tonight, we'll sit down with them and put together a schedule for the summer. And then once we have that, so that way all the folks that will be impacted throughout the summer, we can kind of get the schedule out so they know when work can be expected to be done. And looking forward to another good year of staying on top of our infrastructure needs here in town. And with that, I appreciate your support.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion that we approve the award of $879,153 to Baumgartner and Company Asphalt.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the road and sidewalk improvement projects with Baumgartner and Company. Any questions from the audience? Questions or comments from the council?
Jacob, have we worked with them before, Baumgartner? First time?
We're familiar with the company, but I don't think that we've had them do work in town, at least not since I've been with the town. They're a reputable firm, and so recommendation was to award it to them.
Great, thanks.
Just a couple questions. You and I talked before the meeting, but want to make sure the public sees this or hears this. You said about half of the monies will come through the community crossing grant, and the rest will come from us. The community crossing grant dollars, have those been received or to this point? I know we've had a commitment to them, but have those been received, and do we have? Where's the other money coming from specifically?
Yeah, so we'll get reimbursed for those expenses. The grant was technically awarded on the larger dollar amount. We had budgeted at the $1,032,000. So, and then obviously there's fluctuations based on how bids come in. So they don't just kind of give you that check up front. So we'll get the project going, and then we'll get reimbursement from the state as we submit those and the project's moving forward.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the contract signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Item 6 on our agenda is a approval or discussion about a crash site investigation and street closure. And Bob, since you're on a roll tonight, would you mind?
Yes, of course. You received a letter from a Harvey Lancaster, who's an attorney in Indianapolis. They are conducting a crash site investigation. I presume it's a reconstruction of an accident that occurred about a year ago in the area of 25th Street and Allison Avenue. They would like to close for a very brief period of time from approximately 4 to 5 in the morning. 25th Street from Shaw Avenue to Auburn Street. They have stated in the letter that they will make provisions for the security by hiring off-duty police officers for the purpose of the closure. This isn't a common occurrence, but it's certainly not anything that's unusual by any stretch of the imagination, especially with technology now. More and more attorneys are relying upon accident reconstruction and videos to try and educate a jury as to what an individual experienced or was seeing during the incident.
Do we need a motion on this?
You would, and I might remind you if there are any conditions that you would like to attach, it should be a part of the motion. For instance, notification to the surrounding residents and businesses would be a good idea, and you can certainly restrict it to days of the week too if you would like to have it on a weekend or some particular days when you think traffic might be less impacted.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion that we approve this with the added information where businesses, residents are notified of this closure, along with limiting this study, with that being right in front of Coca-Cola, that it's done on a weekend.
A second.
All right, so there's been a motion and a second to approve the road closure with the additions of, with an amendment that the businesses and residents in the area will be notified and will be limited to the weekend. Are there any other questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, I'm sorry, comments from the audience? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the street closure signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carries 5-0.
If you would like, I can contact Mr. Lancaster and let him know of the conditions associated with it.
Please do.
Will do.
Thank you. Item 7 on our agenda is approval of claims and utility adjustments from our clerk treasurer. Jacob.
Thank you, Mr. President. The claims have been submitted to you for approval from May 9th through June 5th. I would appreciate your approval on these.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the claims presented to us for May 9th through June 5th.
I'll second.
Been a motion, a second, to approve the claims as presented by our clerk treasurer. Any questions from the audience? Questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the claims as presented signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carries 5-0. Jacob, utility adjustments.
Yep, submitted to you for approval, the utility adjustments, same date range, May 9th through June 5th. These are primarily sewer adjustments for leaks and would appreciate your approval.
President Lindsay, I move that we approve the adjustments as presented.
Been a motion and a second to approve the utility adjustments as presented. Any questions from the audience? Questions from the council? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the utility adjustments signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Jacob, anything else?
Just a reminder that Town Hall is now open to the public, but on an appointment basis, so please call us in advance, 317-246-4111, and we will set you up with an appointment. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next is report from our department supervisors, and I feel like I owe it to Tim to have him come first. So, Tim, we'll have you speak first this evening.
Finally. No. Good evening, Town Council. Just a few updates this evening. One, we appreciate your support on helping our local businesses open in these unusual times. It's been going well as far as the temporary seating we've been able to provide on Main Street. We just encourage everyone to continue to support our local businesses. More and more are opening each day, and they're excited to get back to work, and they're excited with all the support. The Speedway community has been fantastic so far. Obviously, the announcement of the Brickyard not hosting fans was a hit to them, but we're looking at ways that we could possibly help them, and we'll let you know what ideas we come up with on that. Out at Founder Square, 2500 High School Road, utility work continues. They're working on taking down the power lines. We should see IPL and Comcast out there running lines underground and rerouting. As soon as those poles come down, you'll see them start digging out the retention pond in the southwest corner. That will really change that entranceway into town. It'll feel a lot different instead of that mound of dirt there. So that is ongoing, weather pending, and I know there's some rain coming the end of this week, so that might slow us down a little bit. Currently, they're on target to complete all the site work and the intersection work in mid-August, right before the Indy 500 is scheduled. So we should be done about a week. Give our police plenty of time to figure out that new intersection right before the race. They should love it. But we're excited. Everything seems to be moving well. The dedicated turn lane seems to be working well, and things are going smooth at this point. Also, last Wednesday, the Board of Zoning Appeals met and approved the variances needed for the crew car wash. We don't anticipate an appeal by Indianapolis. There's a 7-day wait period there, so we're not out of that yet. But if all goes through, that's our first official business that will be out at Founders Square. We had announced it previous, but we've kind of gotten through the hoops to get to that point. So we're excited about that. They did announce at the BZA that they'd be delayed a little bit just due to COVID concerns and lining up contractors and financing. So originally they were anxious to be building about 3 months ago, and now they're saying possibly spring of 2021. We're going to try our best to get them to push that into fall of 2020 if possible, to get some construction on site once all the site work's done. So we'll keep you posted on that timeline as well. Gilman Street, the Able Motorsports building is near completion. They have finished the final painting of the building. They were out working on landscaping today. The building looks fantastic. This is about 31,250 square feet of flex space in Speedway. We're excited to be leasing that. Again, there's many leads on that. COVID's changed a little bit, so we don't have any announcements tonight, but I anticipate that we'll have some tenants coming in that building really soon. They're going to shift to tenant build out for Able Motorsports and Able Construction right now. So you'll continue to see work on the site, but if you get a chance, run down Gilman Street, take a look at our new building. It looks really nice, especially considering it was a giant dirt pile 2 years ago. So big improvement there. A town hall is progressing nicely. Currently, they're working on the police department's new elevator shaft as well as drywall throughout the building. Everything seems to be going fairly smooth. There's weekly meetings out there. We just filmed a weekly update to kind of give the public an update. We took the camera crew through to see some of the walls going up. And I'm really excited about that project. I think it's going to be a fantastic asset for the community. Construction's coming along. I think we're targeting early November for completion of construction, and then the process of moving everybody in and figuring out logistics after that. So as of right now, everything seems to be moving pretty smoothly. And then the only other update I wanted to send, 10th and Poco, there was a delay from the manufacturer in Florida on the fencing. We anticipated that'd be done already. They're saying the fencing should be delivered here in mid-June. They will put it up immediately after that. So hopefully that'll be in place by July. I just want to let you know, last time I had announced that that'd be done, and it did not happen. So that should happen here in the next couple weeks. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Tim?
Good.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Next is our police chief, Jim Campbell.
Good evening. We too want to welcome Carlos. He actually spent some time with us and sat in on a police commission meeting today and survived that. So I think, we got him off to a good start. But the other one is, you stole my thunder. You brought in a pretty good speaker to talk about the Brickyard 400. From a public safety standpoint, it changes what we do, the dynamics of not having fans there, obviously. We still have safety and security concerns. We're working with Mike Bates and, the IMS folks to develop, that plan, which, primarily is going to fall on the Speedway and Speedway officers to, handle that event. The other one is we're in the middle of an applicant process. And we had 41 people that we'll be testing next week. As you know, we got about 4 vacancies to fill. So we're hoping to get that put together rather quickly. The other one is, most of you knew Rodney Ferguson, Sergeant Ferguson. Rodney retired last week. Great guy. We're going to miss Rodney, and, he really was dedicated and loved the town of Speedway. We also lost Mike Klepper, who I think has finally arrived in Alaska, where he kind of packed up everything and moved to Alaska. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is our fire chief, Bob Fishburn.
Evening, council. couple things on inspections. IMS, with all their projects, we've updated all of their new inspection reports in our documentation and our Mobilize, which automatically notifies us. And working with John Lewis has been it's been great. We've gotten through the entire inspection process for IMS. The only thing that we don't have is they haven't put the rubberized membrane on their metal buildings, which we'll go back and inspect after those are up. And, you know, we had suspected those would be earlier, but they're not going to need those, so they're not going to pay to have that put up until they know what's going on with that. But all of that inspection has gone well. Marion County Fire Chiefs, we meet this Thursday for the first time in person, not in a Zoom meeting. One of the big things on the agenda is we're going to look back at the EOC, evaluate what was done really well during COVID. The Marion County EOC does so well because we do events like the Motor Speedway, we do Final Fours, we do Super Bowls. So our EOC was really, really efficient, but it's always still good to evaluate. So we're going to go through that from a fire and EMS side. Allison Transmission's new boiler is up and running. We've inspected that. Everything's going well there. They are still looking at asking for a temporary occupancy for the testing center because they want to bring people in, and so we're working with them on that. We too, like the police, have adjusted our apparatus plan for the brickyard. Really our only concern are the transporters, so there will be an engine in the fueling area, which is always taken care of now by the Motor Speedway. It's usually from a department outside Marion County. And then we will also provide an engine in our normal spot. So Jim and I will probably hang out together some that weekend. But it'll be a lot more lonely up there. Also, all the schools, now that we've been able to get in and work with Brian, all the schools have been inspected, ready for reopening. The only caveat to that is Newbie, which is having the addition, but their current building is all squared away and ready to go. We're monitoring that project's going great, and I'm assuming that they're going to be up and running by the beginning of school. So all the schools are ready to go. And that's really all. We're back at full staff with the exception of one shoulder surgery that we just had to have from a torn rotator cuff. Other than that, knock on wood, we've been very fortunate, and I believe it's because of the protocols that we put into place. The middle of this month, we're going to start letting families, come back and visit with their husbands and dads out back, but not in the firehouse. We're still just really trying to keep that at a bare minimum. Any other departments in town that need help with any of those processes, let us know, and we'll be glad to do that. And with that, if you don't have any questions, also, Carlos, we want to welcome you. Looking forward to working with you, and welcome to the team.
Thanks, Chief. Next is our Park and Recreations Director, Tammy Smith.
Good evening. Welcome, Carlos, to your first town council meeting, and we're glad to have you here. Excited to work with you and show you around our parks. I want to start off today by reminding everybody that we will continue to follow the Marion County guidelines and the executive orders. And with that, unless something changes later this week, we will be opening the bathrooms and other amenities in the parks with the exception of the playgrounds. We have not been given direction on when we can open playgrounds yet. On the Back on Track format, they've changed it to include playgrounds, and it says to be determined clear through stage 5. So that is not just a Marion County, that is statewide. And I'm not sure if it's nationwide, but I know there's a lot of other states that fall into that as well. So, and it is due to that multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children that's shown up. I think they're trying to figure out what impact that has before they open those playgrounds back up. But believe me, I can't wait for them to open up, just like everybody else. So hopefully, just keep an eye on what the executive orders say and what the Marion County Health Department says, and that's what we'll be following. We have had some challenges in the parks because of the playgrounds being closed. We were having people daily ripping the tape off and letting their children play. We have retaped it with better signage, and it seems like that has been doing real well. It came through the weekend well, so we're glad about that. Our camps, we had canceled all of our June camps. We do still have some camps on the schedule for July. We are just watching, again, all the orders, and hopefully we'll be able to proceed with those. A horseshoe camp, a cornhole camp, as well as Stronger Kids Camp, which is like a body and mind boot camp for kids, older kids. The horseshoe and cornhole camp's kind of exciting because that's for all ages, not just kids. That's for adults as well. So if a family wants to come, mom and dad, or dad and son want to come and do something, because of COVID, we're going to waive the registration fee on that and hope that we can get some participation at those camps. Unfortunately, today, we are canceling the junior running club. That was moving forward, but the volunteers from the Speedway Running Club that run that, they have felt it's in the best interest due to running. We have heard that you need even more than 6 feet of social distancing, and with the small kids, they just felt it was best to go ahead and cancel that. But they are going to welcome those kids along, but they have to come with their parents to their Wednesday evening running club. And in addition to that, there is a high school teacher that will work with 7th grade and up if they do want to come to the Wednesday evening running clubs. They need to come with their parent, and he's going to hold a youth development meeting with them. So concerts, we're hoping to move forward with a few concerts this summer. The first one would be July 9th, so I'm trying to finalize the bands, and as of right now, we've got 3 bands scheduled, or hopefully scheduled. I'm finalizing that. So July 9th and 16th and 30th for sure. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next, with our Public Works report, is our Water and Superintendent, Luke Adams.
Good evening, Council. I will begin the Public Works report by starting with the Street Department. Rob and his guys continue to mow and weed eat the common areas throughout town and doing maintenance on Main Street. They also have been running the yard waste truck and keeping the streets clean with the street sweeper. Next is the Sanitation Department. Due to regulatory action by IDEM at the last permit renewal, they are required to meet a new phosphorus limit. The phosphorus removal project is ongoing and on schedule. They will be ready to start meeting the new phosphorus discharge limit by the December 1st, 2020 deadline. With that being said, it was business as usual at the wastewater treatment plant. For the month of May, they treated and reclaimed 141,000 gallons of water. I will conclude with the Waterworks. The next couple of weeks, the Waterworks is conducting a coagulant trial with a new product called Premier Pack. It is a polyaluminum chloride, which is an alum. An alum serves as a flocculant, which causes all the tiny particles in the water to kind of clump together and settle at the bottom of the basin, which creates sludge, and then we have to haul that sludge out on a weekly basis. If it is a success, which we're confident it will be, then we'll be able to use less coagulant than we've been having to use at the same cost with faster deliveries, and it'll also cut back on cost on how much sludge we'll have to remove on a weekly basis. For the month of May, Speedway Water treated and pumped out 64 million gallons of water. 44 million gallons was pumped out of the ground, with 20 million gallons being taken out of Little Eagle Creek. And that's all I have.
Luke, the thing you described, is that there's nothing that's going to change with like the taste or smell of the water, correct?
No,
That they should
no, it's
notice?
essential like a clarifier, if you will, but it won't affect anything with taste and odor at all. And we've kind of been alternating the two plants more frequent than we have in the past, so we're hoping this year we shouldn't have as many of those issues. And if we do, we're prepared for it. Okay.
Great.
Is that it?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, we've given him 4 days to work, so we're going to see what kind of report Carlos has for him. Our new town manager, Carlos May.
Thank you, Mr. President. So as far as the 4 days of work, so far they've been excellent. But what we've done thus far is I've met with all department heads with the exception of one who's been out ill, so he has obviously not yet come back to work, so I haven't had a chance to meet him. I met with fire chief, police chief as well, started attending some commission meetings. In addition to that, I've done a couple of tours of economic development locations with Tim and a few other staff members. Aside from that, then, on a personal note, I've reached out to a few of the business owners on Main Street, so I've gone to meet them. I had to wait a few days to do that because I didn't have the logistical infrastructure in place yet, but now I've got a computer, I've got a phone, and I've got business cards. So with those 3 items, I can actually go out and start doing my job a little bit better. So I have met with a few of the business owners thus far. I've started handing out cards. I also taped a kind of an intro welcome video that is now online, and if I recall correctly, it's on the YouTube channel. It's on the Nextdoor, and I believe on Facebook, if that's correct. Yes. So that should now generate a little bit more interest, and I already got an email like 30 minutes after that was put out, so at least we got the information out there. Other than that, it's been kind of doing a shallow dive into the various projects that the town has currently and that are upcoming, and obviously as time progresses, then I'll dig deeper into each one of those. But the 4 days so far have been packed and exciting, and I'm glad to be here.
Great.
And that's all I've got for right now.
Great. Thank you. Next is report from our council members. We'll start with Councilor Gary Rakes.
Well, first, I welcome Carlos, as everyone else has. I did get a message today. They forwarded your video, and they thought you were Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. So I don't know if you've heard that before.
No, I'll take it. I've gotten a few others, but not that one.
Okay, all right. A couple of us actually received that. So I want to thank our staff and other leaders in our town through the COVID-19 pandemic. It's obviously still going on, and it's going to be for some time, but our leadership, our department heads and other leaders in town have done a great job of just leading, and leading by example, and communicating well with staff, with us, with the public, and oftentimes good leadership's overlooked. When things go well, and as well as can be in times like this, it's overlooked. So I just want to say thank you. I could have said thank you to every single person that came up this evening and then some, but I wanted to do it in just a general way. So I also just have one other thing I'd like to do this evening. I'd like to read some comments that I prepared, and then I spoke with our cable station manager, Brian Pierce, beforehand. He's going to play some photographs before as I'm speaking. So John Rankle grew up in Speedway on the north end of Auburn Street. He lettered in football, basketball, and baseball. Upon graduation, he followed his passion and enlisted in the Marine Corps. John's first enlistment included 2 deployments to Iraq, and he was recognized and promoted several times, actually, ultimately to sergeant. In late 2009, Sergeant Rankle re-enlisted and was deployed a few months later in April of 2010, this time his 3rd deployment to Helmand Province of Afghanistan as part of Operation Enduring Freedom. 2 months later, on June 7th, 2010, John was leading 2 squads when his lead unit came under enemy ambush. He ran forward, not backwards, he ran forward to the battle, 600 meters, to come to the aid of the unit, which was pinned down with only a few haystacks for cover. John led an aggressive assault in an effort to return fire to this group, which was being overwhelmed at the time by the enemy ambush. Upon being ordered to fall back to allow artillery to come in on the position, he selflessly and bravely remained at the area of attack, ordering his Marines to fall back one by one, and provided cover fire while doing that. With all of his Marines out of danger or immediate danger, he himself attempted to fall back, and at that point he was mortally wounded. For his actions that day, Sergeant John Rankle received the Purple Heart and the Bronze Star with Valor. John's buried in the Field of Valor at Crown Hill. It's hard to believe it's been 10 years, but it was June 7th, 2010. John paid an ultimate sacrifice for our town, for the state, and for our nation. His death impacted a lot of people. Hundreds of Marines, dozens of which have visited Speedway to be with his family, and just really to be in the place where John had roots. Since 2010, a number of awards and memorials have been put up for John, a few of which I'll mention. His football jersey, number 50, was retired by the Speedway High School. Every year, a Speedway graduating student athlete receives a scholarship in John's name. A national scholarship was established in John's name and is awarded annually to a child or a sibling of a Marine. And that Marine would have been killed in action just like John was. Over $100,000 was raised by John's family and friends for that particular scholarship. Just for him, it's fully funded, and it provides a full scholarship every year for one student. There's a special memorial dedicated to Sergeant Rankle within the War Memorial downtown, and it's pretty special. You can't go in there at the moment because it's closed due to COVID, but it's pretty special to go and see that. On Veterans Day 2018, after a few years of fundraising and land acquisition along Main Street, the Speedway Memorial, War Memorial was dedicated. It recognizes military veterans connected to Speedway who served our town and country, and it has 3 memorial plaques recognizing John Rankle, as well as 2 other men who were killed in action, those being Sergeant David Huffman, who was killed in 1968, and Army Corporal Zachary Nordmeyer, who was killed in 2009. A few of us have been planning a memorial event specifically for John Rankle for this past weekend. However, due to the COVID-19 restrictions, it's being rescheduled to a date to be determined. Councilors, I'd like to make a motion in a moment to declare June 7th as USMC Sergeant John K. Rankle Day in the town of Speedway. And in doing so, we will present his family a proclamation honoring John at the memorial event later this year. As an aside, I'd also say that if we approve this evening, I'd intend to come back to the council in months to follow with 2 similar motions to be sure we equally honor the other 2 heroes I mentioned earlier. I want to be sure to meet with those families and make sure that they know it's coming before we do that. And with that, I do make that motion that I described.
Okay, I'll second that.
There's been a motion and a second to name June 7th, 2020 as Sergeant John Rankle Day in the town of Speedway. Any comments, further comments or questions from the council? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0.
Thank you. That's all I have to report.
Great, thank you. Councilor Dan Jensen.
I want to extend a warm invitation to Carlos. We're excited to have you. Excited to get to know you, and I think you're going to do really well in Speedway. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Councilor Eileen Fisher.
As well, I'd like to welcome Carlos, our new town manager here. We did go through a process that was very detailed, and during that time when there was not a town manager, I know that Jacob and David both stepped up and did an outstanding job. So, and it was extra time and work for you guys, so thank you for your efforts on that as well too. So, but then also to just our department heads, because all of them have done an outstanding job. I mean, clearly, you guys are the leaders of our town, and I say it's probably going to be easy for Carlos because you guys are in your positions. But I mean, you guys have really done a great job here, keeping staff safe during this time and everything that you've had challenges come up. So thank you for all of your hard work. And I see Kelly back there too, because she doesn't get to talk, and she does a lot of communications for us, and I think she needs to be able to be on our agenda and give us some updates as well too. So
Right now.
that's all I have.
Well, Kelly, I will just say we won't make you come up this time, but how about July? We'll have you.
Okay.
All right. She's thrilled, I think.
I bet.
Next is our Vice President of our council, Vince Noblett.
Carlos, I too look forward to working with you, and I think that your skill set will bring really a whole different outlook to the town of Speedway with your ability to outreach to the public and bring their thoughts and ideas and channel those through them to the right departments, and feel that, again, will strengthen this town with that community spirit that we already have. It'll just grow that, and you'll be the conduit for that. But I'm sure you'll do a great job at that, and I look forward to that. That's all.
Great, thank you. And final is my report. First, I'd like to welcome Carlos. I have already, but I'd like to welcome him again. I think I'm going to forward my phone and my email to him directly.
That works.
And then also to the staff that's here, to the rest of the town employees for putting up for me for the last several months. You've made, it was not easy, but then you also made it go smooth. And if I had a question or concern or whatever, whatever department needed to step up, they stepped up and took care of that. And for that, I'm grateful. To Kelly Buck, she's my saving grace. She can write a heck of a speech that I can read. Thank you for what you do and also for what you continue to do so the residents of this town know what's going on. For me, it did not go unnoticed, and I think the rest of the town recognizes that as well. And behind the scenes, Brian is running the show right now. If you haven't gone on our YouTube channel and watched the business little snippets that they've done, they're incredible. Go out and support the businesses on Main Street, especially now that this race has been or not for the fans. The race is not canceled. Go out and support our businesses on Main Street. Now more than ever, they need you to go out. I'm in town a lot, going down on Main Street and getting food to go about every other night, and it's well worth the money, and it's delicious food. So please, please, please go out and support our Main Street restaurants and businesses. And then the last thing is, I believe the notice was put out today. Our board and commissions are back to their regular schedule, which was approved at the first of the year by the council. So that list is on the town website. So they will be meeting back to normal. However, if you attend, and you are encouraged to attend, as you're encouraged to attend our meetings this evening, we just ask that you social distance the best you can. So with that, we will adjourn our meeting this evening at 7:53 p.m. Thank you.